And managing lots of people is not a problem. I don't think you should be afraid that Drupal is not, just because it's open source software, just because it's free, that it's not good enough to handle your needs. If it handles the White House needs, I'm pretty sure it can handle you. Usability is improved in Drupal 7. We talked some about that. Security. So some of you mentioned before being concerned about security in Drupal. Some people even get worried because Drupal sends out security messages once a week, usually on Wednesdays, where they found all of these issues, and then these go to bug track and these other lists, and people look at that and they say, wow, there's like 12 security issues with Drupal last week. It must be insecure. And as he was telling you, as Sean was telling you, no, this is actually really great because people are constantly going through and improving security every week, every day, making it better, making it more secure. We're using it in production with our sensitive data, so we're pretty happy with the security of it. But what he didn't mention was some of these things about, there's a Drupal vulnerability scanner module. You can download and turn that on, and it will run tests on your site to see if there's some injections that can be done. We had a little trouble getting it going, but it's a little more complicated, but you can get it going. Grendel scan was another very good one that will try SQL injection, cross-site scripting, all these buzzwords for security. You can run that and it'll go through and it'll give you a nice output report of like, here's where I found potential things. And we ran it on ours and we actually had basically had one that was repeated over and over. So it was just one issue that we had to really deal with. We've been working with MIG on security guidelines at SF State, and I highly suggested the OWASP guidelines, and I talked to some people at DrupalCon, and they were also very highly appreciative in promoting these OWASP guidelines. So if you really don't have any idea about how you should be running security checks and how you should be managing your security architecture, just in general, not just for Drupal, you can check out OWASP. And finally, offering ourselves out there that, especially something that you'd like to come in the portal, but with any modules you want to develop for your own, you can send them to us and we can help you test what you're doing, help you. Nat and I have done this for a little while, Anirudh and Jason, we've all been testing our own modules, so you can send us your code and we can look through it and say, oh, well, maybe here it would have been better if you used a different function or something. So don't be afraid to ask us for help. One thing I forgot to write on here, the coder module on Drupal.org also does a very good job of telling you, like, here's some places you might not have done things correctly, here's what you can do to do things correctly. Enterprise architecture, centralized. Yeah, this is a bit technical, so I don't want to go too much into it, but on our portal, we set up a MySQL cluster. We have 4 servers and an extra management node server. So 2 database servers, 2 web servers, and that management server and the MySQL cluster software. In front of it, we use a load balancer called BigIP. What this means for you is that it's highly available. If one of the servers goes down, it automatically fails over to the other server. So web server goes down, fails over to the other web server, database server goes down, fails over to the other database server. Drupal stores everything in sessions, so you can share the session if you tell it to use the same IP. So to the end user, this is pretty much transparent. And this is actually a plug. I was going to say, well, I can tell you about when our site went down, it fell over transparently, but actually we've been up for, I think, 2.5 months now, would you say, Matt, about that? And we haven't gone down. So we handled 350 concurrent users per second when financial aid offer letters were being rolled out. Now we're like 20, 40, 60, 150, 300. Are we going to make it? But we handled it okay. The site never had any performance problems. And we've had, I think, something like 300,000 page views, 32,000 users have logged in that 2.5 months, and has been no performance problems. If you're interested in more techie side performance, we initially, at first, we were getting 7-second load times, and we were like, oh, this kind of sucks, right? And then we implemented Drupal's base caching, which I will just show you very easily how you can do that. It's as simple as going to site configuration and then performance, and you'll get some options to turn on various caching options. So you can see here on my local I have it disabled, but you can just click on normal, and then down here, page compression, block caching. And when it says optimize these files, all it's doing is taking all your CSS and JavaScript, putting it into one file so it loads much faster, because it doesn't have to make back and forth requests. So we went here and enabled this stuff, and we went from like 7 seconds down to 5 seconds or something. So we were like, okay, this is good, this is good. And then we used a tool called Xdebug to find some functions that were still taking a long time. And that's a little more complicated to set up, but if you're interested, I can give you more info about how to do that. Some people at Drupal were. And it'll tell you exactly where to go to look about optimizing your code. So Nat and I did some more like external caching of like our news and calendar stuff. And then we got down to about 3.5 seconds, and we were like, this is great. And then we installed a PHP module called APC, which does code caching. So it's all in the back end. It's actually extremely easy to install. If you just type a command, peckle install APC on most PHP installations, it'll put it right there. And we went from like, we were like at 4 seconds, and now we're down to, at good times, a 1.5 seconds. And Nat and I were like, okay, we're done. We don't really need to go more than this.
Did you by any chance use, because I was looking at optimizing performance on Drupal sites. One of the other things that they talked about was mem caching. Mm-hmm. Did you guys use that?
So there's memcache, there's boost, and there's varnish, and there's pressful. So there's actually there's 9 more. There's those 4 though, and they all do slightly different things about improving your performance. Some of them, like PressFlow, is a complete branch of Drupal, so you have to download a separate file when you install it, but it works just like Drupal does. And what they did was they optimized a lot of the functions and stuff. And in Drupal 7, they actually went and took all those optimizations and put them into it. So D7 is going to be a lot better with performance-wise because they took all that. Boost puts out static.html files for the entire site, and it tries to set up the I/O so it runs faster. Boost is a little more complicated to set up. You've got to set some settings and stuff. And what it's good for is anonymous users. If you only have anonymous users, you're just like your marketing site or something, where you're talking about your main site and you just want to give people that are going there some information. Boost is good for that, along with these advanced, like if you turn on, what is it called, aggressive caching. That's good for if you only have anonymous users. Memcache is technically more difficult to set up. You have to set up an actual thing in front of your database server. But if you go to the module page for downloading Memcache, they have most of the steps there for you to walk through for setting it up on the database side and then connecting the Drupal module to it. And what that does is it caches requests as they come in, takes them, and if it's something that's already done, it can just fire it off really fast as opposed to calling all the Drupal functions to bring it in. The reason we did not go with a lot of that stuff is the focus for those optimizations are on anonymous users. So you can cache a lot of stuff because you're not trying to give them very focused information on themselves. With the portal, we're working with student information and financial aid and all these different things that require like actual interaction from a logged-in user only, and it's something with their information they have to keep putting in. And a lot of those optimizations don't work for logged-in users. So we just said, let's focus on the back end and see what we can do, and we'll skip over that stuff. We'll leave that stuff for sites that we run that are just for anonymous users only. So let's see. So we talked about performance. They already talked about community. A lot of that was, run over by those guys, so I won't do it too much again, except to say that